All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelsey.
Hi, I'm Sindura.
Good evening. So, welcome to our first workshop for spring quarter 2020, and it's going to be about market research. So, as you know, that this quarter's case competition theme is marketing, and we're going to be working with Vegan Med. So, we're going to get started on our workshop. So just a quick overview of what we're going to be covering today. Just a general kind of background about marketing to provide a little bit more context for market research, going over market research, why it's important, and a 7-step process that you can follow. So to start, I will talk a little bit about the larger context of marketing. And I just want to say that Sindura and I have both taken MGT 140 with Professor Doug Findley. It was an amazing class, so we're definitely going to be sharing some of the things that we learned, and we've cited some of his lectures. So this is a quote from Peter Drucker, who is someone who's a very influential thinker on business management. This is a quote by him, and it says, "There's only one valid definition of business purpose, and that's to create a customer." So what this is saying here is that the focus of a business is not profits, but it's customers. One generates profits by serving customers better than competitors do. So without a customer, you will not succeed in business, which is why marketing is critical. So at the end of 2019, the world GDP was $86 trillion, and this is representative of the whole world's economic pie, and all the businesses are competing for their piece of that pie. So because there's this competition, it's important that you think about these 4 things. So the first is knowing your customers. Who are you selling to and what are their needs? And it's important to know who they are so you can do it better than your competitor. The second thing is differentiate. You want to stand out in a crowded market. And third, branding, being able to communicate the above things and be recognizable to your customers. And finally, distribution is being sure to be available to your customers. So overall, these 4 things kind of are an overview of what marketing encompasses. In marketing, there are generally 4 strategic approaches. And they could be sales-centric, which is when you're selling your customer whatever you have. Technology-centric is where your focus is on innovation, and that drives sales and success. So an example of a technology-centric firm would be something like Tesla. Customer-centric is where customers only buy if there's a benefit. So you could think about like hospitality is an example, Hilton Hotels. And then marketing-centric is where it's just pure marketing beyond substance. And so that's what the focus is, just on kind of really hyping something up and talking about these details and really marketing and being persuasive, but maybe not about what the actual product or quality of it is. So it's common for businesses, Sandra, you can go back. It's common for businesses to utilize more than one, like have 2 in combination. You could be both technology-centric and marketing-centric, but there's typically one dominant approach. So we're going to talk about the 4 Ps, and for many of you, this should definitely be familiar, especially if you're pursuing a minor in technology management. However, it's obviously a fundamental framework for thinking about marketing, so we're still going to talk about it today. So the 4 Ps are product, price, promotion, and place. Product is the characteristics of the product, what is making it special, what does it do, product or service. Your price, how is pricing, a part of the marketing strategy? Is it a premium price? Is it middle priced? Is it more of an economic good and price very low? Price says a lot about a product because you're saying something about its value. And promotion, it includes advertisement, any sales or deals, whatever you're doing to promote this product or service. And place can include location, the storefront, is it an online store? That all counts. What are the characteristics of the store? And how is the firm planning on distributing these products? So this is just a breakdown of the marketing mix. Any marketing proposal should include all 4 of these things. But it can also help you identify what the marketing problem might be at the beginning stages of your market research. So we're going to do...
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. She skipped my slide. Will you go to the Trader Joe's one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna just do a quick example of what the four Ps look like with Trader Joe's. So what products they have, groceries, alcoholic beverages, household goods, and even beauty products. They have a wide variety of unique private label goods, and these goods are usually sold in smaller portions. For price, their prices are like mid-range prices. They're a little bit cheaper than Safeway, but maybe more expensive than a bargain store. And Trader Joe's philosophy is that they never discount anything, but they always have good prices. So for promotion, they have a pretty minimal amount of promotion. Most of it is like word of mouth. They don't ever run TV advertisements really, and aren't super active on their social media. They do have fearless flyers, which is a physical pamphlet that they use in stores to introduce new products. And their website has recipes and a blog. They also frequently alternate the products that they have in their store, which kind of creates this a bit of mystery around what you'll find there, and that makes it a little bit more exciting. And then finally, Place. It's a relatively smaller store than your typical chain grocery stores, and their strategy was including like building new stores near places of education, like universities, which is kind of why we have one in Davis, because it's a college town. And they're originally all California based or based in Southern California, but they have expanded a bit more.
So going into market research, which is the gist of this presentation, and this is a big part of what you'll be focusing on for this quarter. So one of the first things you want to look at when beginning your market research is the 5 Cs. And so this gives you some context into like the climate that your product is being entered into and the different background factors that you need to research before to determine whether your product or your project will be viable. And so the first thing you look into is the company. And so this is your own company looking into previous products you worked on and the financial history of the company to figure out whether this is something they should be continuing with. And then you also want to look at the collaborators. So this is like other suppliers or like other companies that you're just working with to make your product better. And so it's really important to understand the relationship between these and whether you have strong relationships with ones that you'd want to work on for future projects that you're planning to work on. And then another important thing to focus on is the customers. And so this is looking into the target audience and what the customer's need is and whether you're satisfying that need or not with your product. And then it's also really important to look at the competitors and see what they're doing, what similar products they had, what's been successful, what's not been successful. And it's important to look at this to assess what improvements and changes you need to make with yours. And then it's also really important to look at the context and climate, because although your product may fulfill all of the other 4 areas and be really successful in those areas, if it's like a poor economic climate and people aren't really making as much money, they might not have a lot of disposable income to spend on items that aren't necessities. And so we put the example of hot Cheetos here. So if you want to, you can pause here and think about how you would apply hot Cheetos to each of the 5 Cs. And so going into why market research is important, because before listening to this presentation, you might have thought, well, once I made a product, I talked to my friends, they thought it was good, and so I'm just going to put it in grocery stores now. But it's really important to look at these because of these main 4 reasons why market research is important. So first, it confirms the viability of a business concept. So it confirms that, like for collaborators, you have a bunch of collaborators that you can work with, and you'll be able to produce a sufficient amount to meet like the demand. And it confirms that maybe you have the technology and support to make this, and make sure that it's something that people actually want. And then it's also really important because it develops insight into customer needs. So therefore, you're able to find the target audience, and what the specific things that the customers are looking for with this product, and figure out whether you're actually fulfilling that or not. And then it also helps you identify risk and information holes. And so, for example, maybe a competitor has created a similar product, but the reason it failed was because of this certain aspect of it. You'll understand that for when you're creating your own, and maybe add that to your product. And so it's really important in helping you figure out and make sure that you have covered every single base of all the research you can do and make your product the best it can be. And then it also helps you realize whether your product is going to be successful in the end. And because it, and with all of the past 3 reasons I mentioned, it helps you figure out how you're going to do it, if the customers need it, and like what things you could possibly be missing, and whether you'll be able to make money off of it. And so that's why it's really important that you conduct thorough market research, so you figure out every single aspect of what could go wrong before putting it into the market. And so based on all of this, we found a 7-step process that many entrepreneurial products go through for market research before putting it on the market, so they can make sure that it's going to be viable and successful. And so the first step is prioritizing information needs. And so this is creating a plan of all of the information that you want to find out, all of the gaps in your knowledge, and learning how you can fill that. And so step 2 is conducting expert interviews. So this is finding people who really know the topic really well and sitting down with them and figuring out more about how their knowledge can give you more information on your product. And then step 3 is developing primary and secondary research plans. And step 4 is conducting that research and then analyzing it and seeing what new information you gained. And step 5 is reviewing that information and then changing your previous assumptions based on this new information. And then step 6 is applying these new assumptions that you have based on all of the data you've gathered and coming up with a new research plan, because with all of this new insight, you'll have to figure out more ways to get deeper into the research. And then step 7 is reviewing everything that you found and then confirming whether or not your product is going to be viable.
All right, so step 1 is prioritizing information needs. This is the first step in conducting market research, and you're taking into account what you already know. So what are your business objectives? What do you already know about your product, company, the market you're looking at? And then from there, you want to identify and prioritize any unknown information and assumptions. So out of what you don't know, what should you focus your time and energy on? So step 2 is to conduct expert interviews. And with this step, I want to mention that it's important for entrepreneurs who are looking, to research a market that they want to enter. And you'll do this to gain firsthand insight into expert information, check ideas and assumptions that you have, raise additional questions, and to do this, you want to start with people that you know. So obviously this occurs in the earlier stages of business development, and for Vegan Med, they might have already gone through this initial period of research before starting the company. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about the company and what you're researching. Are you going to research just the viability of their current business model, or are you exploring some new ideas that you're going to be presenting?
And so the 3rd and 4th step is conducting and creating a plan for your secondary and primary research. So primary research is research that's conducted firsthand by you. And so this is where you collect data through focus groups or survey interviews, and you cater all of your questions specifically towards the product or problem that you're trying to figure out. And so this data that you gather is really catered specifically towards you, and it's really directly useful. And secondary research is data that's already been collected by others, and it can be used for you to build a general understanding of how different companies it can help with the 5 C's as well, and figuring out like a basic overall context for your product. And this can be found through trend reports, market statistics, industry content, and sales information. And so step 5 is reviewing and changing all of your assumptions based on this new data. And so at this stage, it's really important that when you gathered like your secondary research to not generalize, because maybe you found some information on this one specific company, but that company is really similar to yours, but there are also a lot of ways that they're different in this specific product. So it's really important when you find this new information that you're not generalizing that, oh, because they did it, it will be the same for me, because there are variances between them. So again, don't generalize entire markets, because there's many potential differences between them. And it's also really important when you're conducting your primary research and your secondary research to separate your own personal preferences from the market preferences. So make sure that you're not giving like leading questions and that you're not confusing what your own personal opinions are with what the actual target market preferences would be. And so step 6 is to change your plan based on all of the new data that you got and conduct new research. And so this is basically repeating the previous steps and conducting the primary and secondary research again, but with all this new insight that you have. And so this is where you would get a lot deeper into your research and get it more specified towards your exact problem. And then the last step is based on all of the information and data and research that you've gathered, you can assess whether your project is going to be viable and successful. And throughout this whole process, you need to make sure that you're being open to new directions, because you might have to you might find some research that completely eliminates all of your assumptions and you have to go back and start over again. So this isn't like a linear process. You might have to go back and forth multiple times. But yeah, so that's a summary of market research and a little bit about what marketing is. So thank you so much for tuning in to our workshop. And don't forget, our second guest speaker is going to be this Thursday at 7 p.m. It's going to be Gabe Ang from Facebook. And then we're having another workshop on Tuesday on buyer persona. So make sure to come out to both of those. Thank you so much.